Okay, so today's lesson is on proportional and non-proportional relationships. Our objectives are I can write an equation for a proportional relationship and I can write an equation for a non-proportional relationship. Well, let's first talk about our vocabulary. What does a proportional and non-proportional relationship mean? Well, it's actually pretty simple. A proportional relationship is a relationship if the equation is in the form y equals mx, where m cannot be equal to 0. And this should look familiar to you because this was our direct variation equation. And we've done the direct variation equation. And when we did that, we learned that the direct variation graph always passes through 0, 0. Okay? So basically, proportional means that the graph passes through 0, 0. A non-proportional relationship is a relationship that represents a line that does not pass through 0, 0. So this one does not pass through 0, 0. Okay. So let's look at this first example. It's talking about Marcos is a personal trainer at a gym. In addition to his salary, he received a bonus for each client he sees. So the first thing they want us to do is graph the data. So we have the table, they want us to graph it. So let's graph it. 145, go right 1 up to 45. And then we have 290, so I'll go over 2 up to 90, so a little bit in between the 80 and 100. 3, 135 over the 3 up to a little bit in between 120 and 140. 4, 180 over the 4, and we can graph 180 exactly. And then we have 5, 225. I want to graph that. Oop. All right, so looking at our graph, what can we deduce from the pattern about the relationship between the number of clients and the bonus pay? Well, looking at this, if I was to kind of like draw and kind of connect these points, it looks like we are making a straight line. Okay, so that means that our relationship is linear. And if we keep that line going, it looks like it passes through 0, 0. So we have a linear relationship that passes through 0, 0. I know my line looks a little crooked. All right, so now we want to write an equation to represent this line. So remember, our equation is in the form y equals mx. So what do we need to know to write the equation? We need to know m, the slope. So let's go to our table and we're going to find the slope. How do we go from 45 to 90? From 90 to 135, so on and so forth. It looks like we are adding 45 each time. And for the number of clients, looks like we are just adding 1 each time. So that means that my slope would be 45 over 1, which equals 45. So that's my m. So if I was to write an equation, the equation would be y equals 45x. That's the equation. Okay, got that part done? Now, use this equation to predict the amount of Marco's bonus if he sees 8 clients. So if he sees 8 clients, how much will his bonus be? Well, let's go back up and figure out which variable the clients will be. Number of clients, that was our x variable. We see number of clients here on the x-axis, so that's our x. So in order to figure this out, we're going to say x equals 8. So then y equals 45 times 8, which equals, use my calculator, 45 times 8 is 360. So Marco will earn $360 bonus. Make sure you pause the video and get all of that down in your notes. All right, example 2, write an equation in function notation for the graph. So we know we have to write an equation, and I'm going to hold on to that function notation. We're going to come back to that. So we have some steps here. Step 1, copy the ordered pairs into a table. You don't have to have a fancy table. Just draw a quick little T-chart, X and Y, and get some of the ordered pairs down. Now, they give us some points, but sometimes they won't give you a point. So you want to make sure you look and see where does your line cross, make a point on the line. So where it crosses a box at a perfect corner. And I see it's right there. That would be at 0, 6. And we also have a point right here at 1, 9. And I like to have 3 points. So I'm going to get my third point right there at 2, 12. Okay, copy those into a table. Nothing too fancy. Then I'm going to use this table to find slope. We've done that. For my x's, looks like we're adding 1. For my y's, looks like we're adding 3. So that means that my slope will be change in y over the change in x. So 3 divided by 1, which is 3. All right, so remember, we just did this on the last problem. Work the equations. Y equals mx. So I want to plug in that 3. Y equals 3x. Now, before we just say, okay, this is going to work, we want to make sure that we check this. So using your table, we're going to check this equation. So my first set of ordered pairs was 0, 6. So my first ordered pair was 0, 6. That means x is 0, y is 6. Let's plug that in. Does 6, hold on, let me see my color. Does 6 equal 3 times 0? No, 3 times 0 is 0. So what should I add to this equation to get 6? Simple enough, add 6. So that tells me that my equation really is y equals 3x plus 6. Okay, let's just double check that again with another point. The next point was 1, 9. So I want to check and make sure if I plug in 1, 9, that's going to get me this equation. So I'm going to check 1, 9. The x is 1, the y is 9. Does 9 equals 3 times 1 plus 6? Well, 3 times 1 is 3 plus 6, 9. That works. So my equation is good. Okay, well, let's pause it for a moment. Let's go back to our instructions. What did we highlight? Function notation. Well, function notation means that I'm going to take that equation and I'm going to replace y with f of x. So I'm going to go ahead and erase where it says y. And I'm going to replace that with f of x. Now we have function notation. Now we have our final answer. There's our final answer. So make sure you pause the video and get the example down. Here are your U-try problems. You want to pause the video and complete the U-try problems.